In Luke 17, verse 5, Jesus' disciples come to him and they ask him a question. They say, Lord, increase our faith. All of us, I believe, would want to have more faith. And Jesus responds and gives two principles as to how they can have more faith. The first one is very commonly known. In verse 6 of the chapter, Jesus says, if you had faith as a grain of a mustard seed. And we're familiar with this passage and the illustration of a mustard seed that takes advantage of the decaying matter around it. And growing faith is not a faith that is strong on good days and weak on bad days, but it takes advantage of the good and the bad that happens to us in life, and it seeks to grow in every situation of life. A seed grows by taking nourishment from the decaying matter around it. And so in life, when we take advantage and we can see God in the bad situations that sometimes happen to us, and we can see how he works through these trials and tribulations that we have, it's in those situations where our faith is tested and our faith grows as well. Now, the second principle that Jesus gives is in verse 7, 8, 9, and 10. And this one we focus on a little bit less, but I believe it's just as important. Jesus gives an illustration of a man who has a servant. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever lived in a country or where you've had servants that have maybe washed the car, or maybe you've had people that have done the garden work for you, or maybe you've had people that have, came in the house and they've done stuff, or maybe you've been to someone's house where they had such a setup, and it's quite it can be quite different and quite a privilege to have. Now, here in the story, there's a situation where someone says, if you have a servant and you ask your servant to do something, after your servant has done it for you, do you thank him for doing that? And the answer is, no, you don't. Because your servant is paid to do that. You don't thank a servant for doing that which a servant is supposed to do. And it's using this illustration in the context of, Lord, increase our faith. So what does that have in relation to our faith? You see, I believe this, that our faith a growing faith does not see what we do for God as Lord, I've done this for you, therefore can you bless me and reward me? A growing faith does not say, hey God, I've done this. Hey God, I went to church. Hey God, I preached. Hey God, I sang. Hey God, I was on the praise team. Hey God, I did all these great things for you. Now it's your time to bless me. That's not growing faith. That's actually kind of a barter system, and God doesn't work like that. A growing faith says, hey God, I'm a profitless servant. I have only done that which was my duty. A growing faith does not see what we do for God as something like that we should get rewarded like wages, but rather it sees what we do for God as simply the duty that we have as a Christian to serve and to love God. God calls us in many ways to do things for him in church, whether it's in a local church or whether it's in a broader sphere than that, or maybe it's a personal ministry that you have. And a growing faith does not see what we are asked to do as something that we should get a reward for, but rather something that is our duty that God asks us to do. So in response to the question, Lord, increase our faith, he had two things. Number one, take advantage of everything around you like a mustard seed, the good and the bad. And number two, don't see what you do as something that needs to be rewarded, but see what God asks us to do as a duty and a privilege that we have to serve God. May we serve God with a joyful heart, and may our faith grow in the times in which we live.